I bulged a disc about 12 years ago, which has sort of given me periodic problems since then. And I've been in a car accident before that and sporting injuries, all the usual sorts of things. But adding the Pilates and now I think the strength back in again has really improved overall that for me.
Is there people that want to push really fast and get there yesterday and get their PB each time? And we know we need to pull those people back because if it's too fast, people could hurt themselves. Or there's the opposite, people that are too fearful and don't want to push themselves. And then we know they can do more.
I needed to change my mindset from I'm too busy to exercise to I'm really busy. I need to find some time to exercise. And that's been really important.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the show that helps you become more confident in your body so you can keep doing the things you love. My name is Michael Dermansky. I'm a senior physiotherapist in MD Health, and I've got a special guest today, Rob Gregory, who's one of our customers and happens to be a lawyer as well. And we're talking today about how does clinical Pilates help with managing lower back problems. And I wanted a client's perspective. I interviewed Connor, who was one of our staff members before, and he talked about it from a clinician's point of view. And today we're talking about it from a customer's point of view. Rob, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here today.
Michael?
All right. So we met, how long ago? About a year or just over a year ago
Yeah,
now?
right. Yeah.
A year ago. And so, I mean, let's talk about your story as well. So before you came to see us, you were doing regular exercise in the past, including classical strength training. Why did you decide that clinical Pilates may be for you?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I'd done a lot as a child and teens, 20s, but sort of stopped really exercising a lot in my late 20s and through until my probably late 40s, I suppose, or strength-based, which I really enjoyed, and also walking a lot. And along the way, I injured my back in a couple of different ways and different episodes. And I had literally been walking past your front door for months and decided early one Tuesday morning to walk in and say hello. And that's sort of really, I thought I'd give it a go when you explained the program to me. And that combination, I think for me of heavier weights, but also Pilates is something I hadn't done before, but I've really found works very well for me.
Well, let's go back into the experience of that too. Was clinical Pilates what you expected it to be? And how did you find the process over time from the beginning and how it changed it for you? I mean, I know what we've gone through as well, but from your perspective, how was the first part and how did it continue on after that too?
No, I don't think it was what I was expecting. My partner has done Pilates for a long time, but it wasn't something that I'd ever been particularly very interested in.
Yeah.
But I certainly felt that combination of particularly doing the core strength and those sort of things has made a really noticeable difference over the last year. So, together with a number of other things, but it does seem to really stabilize and help me, stay active and feel freer and lesser and all those sort of things that I find very helpful day to day and just as part of my life now.
So, I mean, looking at those early days as well, we would have started with a lot of work about lumbar control and pelvic control as well. Is that something you had worked on before, or was that a new, different concepts?
Not consciously at all.
Yeah.
Probably incidentally, I would have been, but no, not in that sort of focused way. And I suppose the other point that, from my experience, is just the way it works in quite naturally. I'm not always entirely exactly conscious of what the purpose of the Pilates exercise I am doing is, but that's fine. I enjoy doing them, and it's become a very easy and natural part of my weekly routine now, which I really enjoy.
Well, as you said, you'd done classical strength training before and was enjoyed that too, but there was also back injuries as well. We started on working on core and pelvic stability as well, and then when the staff members said, "Okay, Rob's ready for this. Let's start adding some classical strength training back into his program again." How did you feel about that process? And I mean, I guess what it felt like going through it, also mentally what it felt like, because knowing fully well there'd been episodes in the past where it didn't work that well.
Yeah, I think coming back into the strength training was good. I'd had probably 4 or 5 months off before we started doing strength training again. And when I was doing that, it felt very natural and it wasn't sort of forced in any way. And it just felt like it integrated really well into what we'd been doing otherwise. And as I say, I definitely feel now, a great deal more strength and control through the core, which makes a difference.
Let's talk about the difference as well. Is that, how has it made a difference into your back and how you feel about you're back at this stage now compared to just over a year ago?
Yeah, well, I bulged a disc about 12 years ago, which has sort of given me periodic
Yeah.
problems since then. And I've been in a car accident before that and sporting injuries, all the usual sorts of things. But it was really the bulge disc that was the biggest issue. And I've definitely felt over the last year that I've got a lot more control over that, to the point where, the days where you feel very stiff and sore and, you're really feeling the pain from it. I've had far less of that, I think, in the last 12 months than I have really at any time. The massage, I guess, the massage therapy as well, that helps a lot. But adding the Pilates and now I think the strength back in again has really improved overall that for me. It's certainly been a real eye opener, I suppose. It's something I really thought about doing consciously. It was more, this is a bit different. I'll try it and see how it goes. And I've been really very pleased.
I mean, from our staff and clinician's point of view as well, the biggest problem we tend to see is people when, people do clinical classical strength training, and it's great for building up, resilience and strength, but often that control isn't there, and people are layering on heavy weights when their lumbar and pelvic control just isn't there, and that's where that makes their back and other areas vulnerable to injury. And so introducing some of those exercises earlier, like classical strength training, like deadlifts and so forth, when people aren't strong enough yet, they haven't got the control, that's where we see problems, because then they do lift, their body isn't able to take the load, puts strain on a pain-sensitive structure like a disc or something like that to it, and then that's where they hurt themselves. Where, going back, making sure their disc is managed, and then you start building up the control, and then when the control is there, that layers of strength work, that combination is to work really, really well. Just the right things added at the right times when your body's ready, but you need that balance between stability and power. I mean, I guess that was the biggest thing I learned at university. Well, I didn't learn at university. We learned at university the balance between the front muscles and the back muscles, what's called the agonists and antagonists. So one muscle group did a job, and the other muscle group did the opposite job, and you needed a balance of the two. What we found over the years, the biggest problem is that people they need a balance between their stabilizers and their prime movers. So the prime movers, like the glutes and so forth, they're big, strong power muscles. They should be able to lift really heavy stuff, but they need the small stabilizers to do their job properly to keep the area stable. So when an area moves, you get a degree of glide and slide, which is really normal. So the back will rotate forward to backwards, but all the vertebrae will slide forward to backwards. That's their normal job. And the role of these stabilizers is to control the degree of glide and slide. So they don't move a lot, they control that glide. And if they don't do the job properly, when you have lift a heavy weight, that glide is uncontrolled, and it puts load on a pain-sensitive structure, like a disc. And so you go lift, it can't control it, it slides forward, it irritates the disc, that's what takes the load, and you hurt yourself. Having that balance between working on the stability and then adding the power onto it's super important, because the stabilizers need to do the job properly, but they're not very strong. All they do is a controlling degree of glide. And so if you don't build the strength up when you do the classical strength training, then the capacity that you can do is very limited too. So the combination is super important, and where you see the real balance. And this is not just the lower back, this happens around the shoulders the same, the knees the same, the hips the same. All those areas are very similar. You need the stabilizers to do their job properly, and then the prime movers to do their job properly to be able to then have that degree of movement and control and capacity, and they work together. Just for listeners as well, I'm talking to Rob Gregory, who's one of our clients as well. He happens to be a lawyer as well. We see many of those who want to do strength work to make their back stronger as well. In past experiences, he's worked on classic strength training. There's been back injuries as well. But this time when we do clinical Pilates, we work on the stability and the strength, and the combination has been a really good one to be able to naturally increase what Rob's been able to do. So let's go back to the point where we did start reintroducing classical strength training into your program. How did you feel about it? And then has it made a difference in your life outside of the strength thing? Because what we do here is training for what you do outside of here, not really what happens in the rooms here.
Yeah, as you said, Michael, I've done strength training really sort of throughout my life. There was a period when I didn't do much at all, but coming back to it probably 5 or 6 years ago, but now over the last 12 months, the strength training is definitely leaving me feel a lot more, or it leaves me feeling stronger, but also sort of more capable. And the the sort of concerns I suppose you do have as you start to lose a bit of strength over your life, I'm noticing I'm getting all that back, which I really enjoy. And then while you're actually doing the work, you're doing the rack pulls or the squats or bench press or whatever it is, there's that same old sense of achievement that I've always received from doing strength training and increasing reps, increasing weight. Sometimes you might push that a bit too far, and working particularly with the trainers makes it, you still have that challenge, I suppose, but you feel like you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself in a much more controlled environment too.
I mean, that's our job, where we have obviously usually have two types of people. There's the people that want to push really fast and go get there yesterday and get their PB each time, and we know we need to pull those people back, because often the speed at which we progress is going to make a big difference in the long-term outcome. Because if it's too fast, people could hurt themselves. They haven't built the capacity enough. I mean, when you do a strength-based program as well, it's not what happens on the day, it's what happens in between sessions that's really important. So you load the area up, push it to a certain limit, and then let the body adapt before you push it further. And when people want to progress that too fast, that's when they hurt themselves, because the capacity hasn't been built yet. So, that's where people hurt themselves. Or there's the opposite, people that are too fearful and don't want to push themselves. And then we know they can do more. We can see, what, Rob's not working to his limit here. He's not at this level. It's just too easy for him. We need to push him a little bit more, because we aren't going to get the progression he deserves unless we other two. Fear, worried when we started reintroducing it, or not really?
No, not fear or worry, I suppose. And I was it now sort of 3 weeks ago, overtrained slightly and hurt my lower back as well. But I always felt very confident that it was just a minor setback rather than a major issue. And once again, I think that comes from the core work I've been doing over 12 months, and also the strength training as well. So even when you are, if you've been training for a long time, I suppose you're sort of used to having those experiences. You become less worried about them each time, because you kind of know you're going to come back from it. But on top of that, I think was the added confidence that came from having a good, strong core and having done that work over the last 12 months.
It's great. I mean, you've just led me to the question I was asked as well. Have we had any setbacks? Because I know we had a setback about 3 weeks ago, and we were doing the squats, and I wasn't happy with the depth you were working on, so we went a little bit lower, and then your back hurt after that too. But it's not the end. It's not the end. We just need to bring it back, make sure we get on top of this bulge again, and then reduce the weight, work on the depth, and then get back to where we should be as well. I mean, the big thing I want to really highlight is that setbacks will happen. Like they
Yes.
do. We're working on the edge. We're meant to be working on the edge, but they're not the end of the world. It just means that we have to settle it down and then further go back and work on the capacity. And my biggest concern on that time, in terms of your capacity, was that we didn't have the depth control. We had a strength within a certain range, and we went any further than that, the control wasn't there. So we had to pull the weight back, settle the explosive down, and then start working on depth and control. Where I want you to be able to lift heavy stuff. I don't want you to lift heavy stuff at that range. I want it to be more, because life stuff happens here, not here.
Hmm. And that really is the point.
And I guess the other thing, go for it, Ray.
No, I was just going to
Rob,
say, at this point, it's very much training for life rather than anything else, or in particular, so just being able to have the full range of movements through daily life and everything you do with kids or around the home or whatever, that's much more important. And sort of, I was always very confident that that would come back. I wasn't worried about it particularly, and within probably 2 weeks, back doing the squats again and feeling strong doing them. So,
and I guess the other thing I really want to bring up that's really important is the fact that one of the things you said early in the interview as well, you said, things happen, but they recover a lot faster. And I think that's a really super important point, is that once you build strength and capacity as well, stuff will happen. You will still hurt yourself every so often, because life happens. Not everything's predictable. But when it does, one, the episodes are much less frequent, and two, your recovery is a lot faster.
Yeah, and I certainly felt that just in my sort of general life and movement, I've been a lot freer, and putting it back, I still feel stronger than I have previously. And then when that setback occurred, there was a moment of pain, I suppose, and worry, but then really all the way through the next 2 weeks, I was always pretty confident that I'd be back and quickly. Partly that's just increased experience of managing it I've had over the last 10 or 12 years. But it was also knowing that my core had definitely improved in strength compared to when I was, if you like, just doing other weights work and stretching and those sort of things.
Yeah. I guess the final question is, has it made a difference having a program run by allied health professionals, as opposed to not having that allied health knowledge on top of that in your program?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was in my sort of 20s and I guess into my 30s, I'd do a fair bit of independent gym work or just working with a mate. And that was fine. But you do tend to do just the same things over and over and over again. And it gets boring, quite frankly, which is probably why I stopped. When I first started working with a trainer sort of 5 or 6 years ago, I really appreciated the variability and variety of what I was doing in training. So I'd sort of become very in tune with that. And then making the change, feeling the confidence that, it's very clear that you and all the trainers are very experienced and, well trained and well qualified in your own right, and having conversations about what's happening and why it's happening, and then what we're going to train towards to change or improve that outcome is something I really enjoy doing with yourself and with all the trainers.
And just finally as well, any further comments you want to leave with the listeners today?
No, I mean, I had I have a relatively sedentary office job, but I realized some time ago that, I needed to change my mindset from I'm too busy to exercise to I'm really busy. I need to find some time to exercise and make some time to exercise. And that's been really important. And then using that time at the moment with you and the others at the gym works really well for me. I walk a lot as well, and I enjoy and appreciate that. But the 2 or 3 sessions a week really makes a huge difference and a very positive difference at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a great point to finish off on. Is that you may have a sedentary job, and a lot of people do. A lot of our clients are white collar workers. They're knowledge based workers. We're in front of a laptop all day or in front of meetings all day, and your body needs capacity and strength. So if you may not get it in your work, but you do need it to be able to do life stuff. Building muscle strength and resilience is one of the most important things we do now in life, and has massive longevity effects in quality and quantity of life going forward as well. You don't know what you're building now, but you're ultimately building that muscle body reserve that you need as you get older so that you can cope with life events.
Yeah.
You can't see them happening, but if the reserve's there, you've got the ability to cope with them. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences because I really wanted to. I mean, we can talk about it all we like because we know the stuff back to front, but hearing it from a client's perspective is always different. That seeing it from how your body changes and how it feels, and knowing that someone's early in their journey and they're worried about their back and how this kind of working on clinical Pilates and strength training makes a big difference to their long-term capacity in life. That's the whole point.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks very much for your time, Rob, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Michael.